Hey everybody, welcome back to Leadership Unveiled. My name is Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt and I'm your host, and today is day 11 of the 12 days of leadership. Oh, I'm so excited that we've made it here. I have some special news to share with you at the end of the episode, so do stay tuned for that. But for today's topic, we're going to be talking about the RACI matrix, RACI. I'm going to teach you what the mnemonic stands for and how it can help you in your professional career. So before we get started, of course, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the notification bell. Make sure it's turned on for all, not just personalized, so you get notified when a new video of mine drops. And make sure that you leave a comment and let me know what your favorite day of the 12 days of leadership has been so far. We've talked about time management. We've talked about delegating. We've talked about performance appraisals and reviews. We talked about like mindset stuff. Today, we're going to be talking more of like a tool or strategy. There's so many things we've covered. All right, and if you are in the podcast app and just listening wherever you're at, thank you so much for being here. If you're in the shower and you're in the car, you're cleaning your house, doing laundry, whatever it is, I appreciate you being here. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already so that you know when a new episode comes your way. And please do leave me a rating or review. Let me know, tell me, what did you think of the 12 days of leadership? Have you gained anything from it? Do you have any suggestions for how this podcast could be better? That would be really helpful for me. All right, so let's get down to it. Let's talk about a RACI matrix. So the first time I heard of this mnemonic, I was like, I have really never heard of this. This is totally foreign for me. But after I learned what it was, I was like, my life is forever changed. So let me just preface it by this. Let's just put it this way. Have you ever worked with somebody where you have sort of an unwritten rule of basically okay, they take care of this, I take care of this. This is their job, this is my job, and there's, no really written rules for how to work together on that. And have you ever worked with somebody where you're like, I feel like I'm doing what they're supposed to be doing and I'm picking up the slack, what's going on here? But then you don't know what to say about it. You don't want to feel like you're complaining or tattletaling, but at the same time, you're like, I feel like I'm pulling my weight more than this person, right? Or maybe there's something where you're like, I feel like that's something I should be doing, but I'm not sure why it's assigned to this other person's role, right? So there's all these question marks and awkward situations we experience in the workplace, and we don't have any way of communicating it without sounding like, awkward or rude or, stepping on other people's toes. At least this is coming from somebody in Minnesota. So Minnesota nice is totally a thing here where it's just rather keep the status quo and not dig up any of these issues. So the cool thing about this RACI matrix or this framework is that you have a framework for how to talk about things like this. So RACI is for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So responsible is who does the actual work to get something done. Accountable is who has oversight to ensure that something happens. So responsible is really the person doing the actual work. They have their hands in it. They might be physically doing the work. They might be doing the thinking, the planning. Accountable is who's basically if somebody doesn't get that job done, then they're going to be at fault, right? So you can kind of think about this not in a hierarchy, but sort of. So let's say I'm a manager. I might be accountable for making sure that the department is properly staffed, but I might not be responsible for doing every single interview, right? My supervisor might be interviewing and I'm coming in at the end and doing the hiring. So it just depends on how you run your department. Another example could be let's say that I, as the manager, sign off on certain paperwork, but maybe it's my lead or my frontline staff that's doing that work and saying, hey, I have a report for you to review. So I sign off and say, yep, this looks great, but I'm not actually doing any of the work to prepare that report or to make sure that report, the data is in that report. So I hope that makes sense. Consulted, the RACI part, that the end of that word, consulted is who is involved or consulted to make decisions and help get something done. Informed is who is kept in the loop or notified of decisions or progress. So consulted would be let's say I'm responsible for getting something done and I want to get some feedback from somebody. I might say, hey, FYI, this is what we're thinking about doing. What do you think about this? Would that align with the work that you're doing? Does this make sense? So a good example for me is we have a medical director that oversees the department sort of in partnership with me. And so if I want to make a change, but I want to make sure my clinical partner, my medical director, is on board with it, I'll consult them and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Like, what do you think from your perspective? Is this something that you think we could do? So it's not necessarily that they're doing work, it's that they're being brought in for key decision making. Informed is just somebody who's notified or kept in the loop. So for example, this could be like, let's say the manager, like maybe the frontline staff's like, hey, our equipment broke, and then they escalated it to another leader. The leader's like, okay, I'll talk to the service folks. I'll come out and fix it. To me, they might say, hey boss, our equipment broke. I escalated it. Service came out and it got repaired and we didn't have any delays. And I'm like, great, that's amazing. So it's more of an FYI so that I don't hear about it sideways from somebody else, that I'm aware and in the loop and know what's going on, right? So I love this framework because you can then take all the different tasks and duties that you might have in your role or in your department or with the people that work on your team and put them in a spreadsheet or however you want to organize it. I actually have a template for this that I love to use. I take all the tasks and I write them in one column all the way down until I run out of tasks. And then across the top, you can list the different roles in your department, like manager, supervisor, leader, specialist, whatever you call them. And then you would take one task, you'd say, okay, reviewing, let's say quality control paperwork, let's say. So you'd go across to all of the different roles and say, are they responsible? Are they accountable? Are they consulted? Or are they informed? So helpful. So for me as a manager, I just need to be informed that got done and make sure that it happens, right? But maybe the accountable person is really the technical specialist, and maybe they're also responsible for reviewing the form. Maybe the frontline staff, somebody they delegated, is responsible for the first review, then the second review happens by the tech specialist. So there's two people responsible, and ultimately who is accountable, right? So you'd go across and you'd say, this is how each person in the department functions for each of these tasks. I don't have a ton of time to go into go over multiple examples, but I just want to say that what you could do to get started is make a list of all the duties that you do, work with different people in your department to gather what they do, and then make your own RACI document where you're like, okay, so are you responsible or I'm responsible? And you're going to have some really cool conversations like, oh, I thought you were doing this. Oh, I thought I was doing that. Oh, we're both doing that. And you can identify where there's room for improvement, for clarity. There's room for maybe there's overlap and redundancy of work. You can eliminate that. Maybe you find like, oh, I'm doing this, but it doesn't really make sense for my role to do it. Maybe it'd be better if your role did it and I could take something else off of your plate. So it helps with proper role alignment as well. And then the last thing it does is helps for flexibility. So although this creates a very much a structure of it's very clear who is doing the thing, who's informed, who's consulted, who's accountable, it also says like, hey, there's this task. I know I'm responsible and accountable, but I don't enjoy doing it as much as this other person. And this other person said they would like to try it out and take that on because they have capacity. And I'd be like, yeah, I think that's okay because we all want to grow and learn. And sometimes we just want to work on things that we enjoy doing. And there's no problem sharing those tasks with other people. So I love this framework because it makes it really clear what your expectations are. It makes it easy for you once you have this baseline, and then you can improve and change. You can't change or improve anything if you don't know what current state is. So I love that. And then it allows you to have really clear conversations with other people like, hey, I think I can do that, or I have more capacity. It's also a wonderful tool if you're finding you're like, oh, I have so much to do. I'm not sure what's to prioritize, or I don't know if this is sustainable. Go back to that RACI document and say, okay, yeah, you do have a lot of things. How might we divide it in a different way amongst our team to accomplish this? And that's how you could see like, maybe I am over capacity. Maybe we should request another person to join our team, or maybe somebody else has less to do and they could take on that work. So it's really cool because it gives you so much data. You can change it over time. It's a living, breathing document that helps you be successful. And that way too, like if you're working to someone next to somebody it says they're supposed to be doing this thing and they're not, you can clearly say like, oh, the RACI says you're accountable for this or responsible for this. I haven't seen this being done. Can you tell me more about why? Are there any barriers for you? Is there any confusion? Should we be changing the RACI? It's a wonderful way to start, curious conversations with people, to start thinking about how our team could function in a better, more improved way. And I feel like when I've implemented it on my teams, my team at first really resisted it because it was a lot of work to put together all of the tasks and all of the roles. And it took many meetings to go over and fill everything in. But once we have done it, we've used it for a few years now. And I swear every time somebody brings forward like, oh, I'm overwhelmed, or I feel like I'm not doing the things I'm supposed to be doing, they're like, you know what, let's look at the RACI. Like they tell me, Kayla, we should look at our RACI. And then we go in and update it, or we're like, actually, no, you're doing everything you should be doing. Like, look, this is everything. There's nothing else. You're doing great. Like, don't worry about it. So I love this tool. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool for you to really kind of set the standard on your team. And I found that the teams that I work with that have this are super high functioning, because when you are very clear on expectations, people can just they can go and do their work and they're not worried about what other people are doing or what they're doing. They know exactly who's doing what. All right, so I hope this was helpful for you. I wanted to share this because I do have an announcement. I sort of alluded to it at the beginning of this 12 days, but I have a course that I will be launching on the 12th day of the 12 Days of Leadership. It's going to be my career kickstart course, and I'm going to delve into it for tomorrow's episode. It is for a few different folks. It's going to be for people who are new professionals who need a career kickstart, or for you if you are changing roles and you started a new job recently, or you're going to start a new job, or maybe in 2023 you're like, I really need to be re-energized and make sure my system for my work is really streamlined and organized. This is for you. So I don't want to say too much because I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow. But I also bring it up because the RACI document is part of one of the lessons that I teach. It's part of Module 1. And I also give I include many done-for-you templates in this course, and the RACI is one of them. So I provide you with a structured template with examples of the activities to list and all the roles across the top, so you can literally just plug and play with your team. And I'm excited because I'm going to be announcing tomorrow some additional ways to support you. Once you take this course, I'm going to be sharing when it's going to launch and all of those details. I can't wait to share it with you. And I think you're going to be really excited. So again, of course, I can't go over the RACI in such detail in this short video for these 12 days. So like I said, if you take the course, this is something that we would dive more into. You would get real-time support from me to create this with your team and then implement it after this. So, all right, let me know if you've heard of the RACI matrix before. I have talked about it a little bit here and there, but not a ton. And let me know if this was helpful for you in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. And I'll catch you here for tomorrow for the last day of the 12 Days of Leadership for a really, really exciting announcement. All right, everybody, take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.